मेरा नाम दुर्दाना अंसारी है और मैं एथनिक माइनॉरिटी फाउंडेशन की डायरेक्टर हूँ। और हम जो प्रोजेक्ट हमारा 2006 से चल रहा है वो एजुकेशन पे है। मेनली मुस्लिम वुमेन की एजुकेशन थी पूरे बरतानिया में, और अब आज उसको 8 साल पूरे होने को आ रहे हैं। इसके साथ साथ हमने देखा कि बहुत सी ऐसी ज़रूरत थी कि जो हमारे यंगस्टर्स हैं उनके लिए कोई ऐसा एक प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं था। तो मुख्तसरन ये कि वो प्रोजेक्ट साथ साथ चलने के हमने सोचा कि क्यों ना जो यंग जनरेशन है उनके लिए भी कोई ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म कायम किया जाए कि जो फेसबुक और ट्विटर और इससे ज़रा हट के सामने आके रूबरू एक दूसरे के सामने बैठ के वही गुफ्तगू करें जो वो लोग फेसबुक पे करते हैं या ट्विटर पे करते हैं। तो इसका मकसद ही यही है कि हम जैसे एक्सपर्ट्स आएँ और उनके जो हैं वर्कशॉप्स चलाएं, म्यूज़िकल प्रोग्राम्स हों, बुक क्लब हो, कोई एक्सपर्ट बाहर से आए हुए हैं तो उन लोगों के टॉक्स हों। यही सारा मकसद है और इसी की कड़ी आज इसकी एक समझ लीजिए कि बहुत ही इनफॉर्मल इनागुरेशन है, जिसके तहत हमने आज डॉक्टर फातिमा हसन ज़हरा को इनवाइट किया है, जो कि यहाँ ब्रिटिश म्यूज़ियम में प्रिंसेस इंस्टीट्यूट में पढ़ाती रही हैं और अब भी पढ़ाती हैं। और आजकल वो शारजा यूनिवर्सिटी के आर्ट्स डिपार्टमेंट की वो हेड हैं और वो यहाँ आई हुई थी। तो हमने सोचा कि क्यों ना उनको मदऊ किया जाए यहाँ और उनसे कहा जाए कि व्हाट इज़ द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ ट्रेडिशनल आर्ट इन द मॉडर्न टाइम्स।
This seminar has come together as part of a new project that we are introducing to promote our culture, to promote art, literature, everything. So I'm very excited about it. It's going to be phenomenal.
When you grow up in a very traditional culture where you have sort of grown up, in an environment where the food is very traditional, the clothes you wear are very traditional, and at the same time very contemporary as well. I mean, the South Asian culture, or let's say Japan, is a very fine example because it is perhaps one of the countries where you find tradition and modernity together. I mean, they're such good at keeping the tradition alive. You go to fine art studios and you'll find the artists are still sort of entering the studios bare feet, which is very much like the tradition in South Asia, which is almost vanished, but we still have some in the form of miniature painting studios where I still remember when I was getting training in the National College of Arts, known as Mayo School of Arts, before partition, that the miniature studio, the layout, the way we were supposed to sit was very traditional in the sense that it was all sort of laid, the white surface, clean sheets with sort of nice pillows to lean against, and then the food and the drinks were not allowed near the work or even in the studio. And then when I was doing my research about traditional art, when I was at the Royal College and then after at the Princess School, I sort of found this manuscript which was written in 17th century by one of the greatest writers or chronicle writers of the Safavid period, from early 16th century, whose name is Qazi Ahmad, or in Arabic we would say Qadi Ahmad, who writes about how the traditional studios for the artists were designed. I mean, there was a lot of emphasis how the light would actually enter into the studio and how the artist would actually sit in the first part of the day, and then when the sun moves, then they shift. But the important thing, which really surprised me, and I was very touched, that the artist considered traditional art because that art was giving them money to feed the family. Hence, that art was sacred, was considered sacred. Even in the West, when you study traditional art, I mean, when you look at the religious work, the sacred painting, the religious painting, illustrations, the icon paintings, which were done on Bible, lots of artworks, including sculpture, murals, so on and so forth. They were all sort of done based on religion. So, and the people who were painting it, they were artists, but they had religious background. There were a lot of monks and priests who were into practicing the traditional art. And the spirit was very different, because spirit was they were painting it because it was for God. It was, and obviously when they were working, they were getting money or whatever, for the family to support and everything. And of course, all their needs were taken care. Now, I start with a very simple, sort of traditional Islamic, not exactly, I mean, in pre-Islam, Islamic sort of history, whether it's Christian Byzantine or pre-Christian as well, you find that artists over the centuries, they've always taken inspiration from nature. Nature is something that inspires everyone, not just artists, writers, poets, and of course the scientists. Tradition is something that is passed on to you from your ancestors. Perhaps, when I perhaps cook something with a recipe, and I always tell my daughters that, okay, my mum used to cook like this, or my mum would tell me that her mum, my grandmother, used to cook like that. So obviously that's how the family traditions, they pass on. And there are lots of, when it comes to art, let's start from calligraphy, from text. In the pre-Islamic Arabia, the way the Arabic was written was a very simple cubic script without any accents. And it sort of, looked very primitive also. And before that, it just came from Aramaic, the language of Jesus. So, and a similar kind of pattern you'll find on one of the borders in some kind of there's a manuscript, you have a painting inside, and you'll find a similar kind of border, which is not exactly perhaps like this, but this is one of the principal elements out of the 7 principles, which are applied to the art of illumination. Illumination is very popular in the West, and the West has had a very strong tradition in illumination. And of course, East, when it comes to the East, then Turkey, Iran, Central Asia, currently Uzbekistan, and all these states, they've had a great tradition of gold, of working with gold, not only on the architecture, in the text, but also in textile. There's a special weaving where the threads, the gold threads are mixed with the silver and with the silk, with cotton, and then the patterns are created. Another very simple, very basic example of a traditional Chinese brush painting, which is very contemporary, but it has been done for centuries. The same bamboo has been painted for centuries to this day. You go to British Museum to do world art, some kind of course there, and they are teaching Chinese brush painting. The teacher is teaching this. You go to any other institution in Britain where there are vocational courses, hobby classes in Chinese painting and all that, you'll find teacher teaching this. This is one of the very, traditional thing to do. This is a relatively much more sophisticated and more sort of intricate pattern from a Mughal piece of textile. It's a woven textile, and with silk thread and with sort of various colored threads. And it's late 15th century. And you can see the inspiration again from nature, from flowers, from plants. I remember when I started my MA with Professor Critchlow, we were taken to Kew Gardens, botanical gardens. We were taken to lots of other gardens. We were asked to bring the flowers, the plants, and then we were supposed to deconstruct and see the plants and the flowers from the top, like this, and then deconstruct, and then draw, and you're looking at a plant. It's 3D, and when you look at it from the top, it's the bird's eye view of a flower, and you see flat petals, and there's certain flowers which have 5 petals, and they have 5-fold geometry. They sometimes make a 5-pointed star. You have to tell me the time, because I'm not. And if you please, you have to stop me, right? Sometimes you come across some amazing flowers which have more than 8 petals, 12. If you have seen sunflower, it's a great inspiration, because the inner part of the sunflower has that solar sort of ring, which the British Petroleum, the guy who designed the logo, was inspired from, and each and everything. I mean, when you look around yourself, whether you have animals, they have certain pattern on their skins. You look around, you find flowers, plants, anything, even a beautiful face, human beings, any kind of anything which God has created or nature has created. You realize that it inspires. So beauty is something which is inherent, is a very important or principal element of traditional art. According to a very famous scholar of Islamic art, Martin Lings, who died a few years ago, he says that there are 3 principles of all world's great traditional arts. The first one is the truth, with the capital T. The second element is beauty, with a capital B. And the third most important element is goodness, with a capital G. If you look at the pattern, you'll realize that a lot of these modern interior design companies and the design companies, they are using a lot of these patterns in a very sort of interesting way. I mean, there are a lot of cutting edge design, and the surfaces. For example, I've seen some, there was this shower curtain designed, has been sold, it's been sold by IKEA, and I saw it in UAE with a grid which has the flower of creation, which I'll show you in a minute. Most of these patterns, they're being used on the wallpapers, on upholstery, on wristwatches, straps, and tables, walls, grills, all kind of things. So, I mean, the way they are put together, obviously in a very traditional way, they look very traditional because they are. But the moment you start deconstructing them, you just take them apart and pull them out. For example, if you're given blocks and or a maze, and you have to prepare a picture like this, and if you just deconstruct it, you realize that each piece has a beautiful design, and you can actually use it in a sort of very cutting edge way. I mean, there are too many things, too many designs on one wall, but they still look beautiful. There's so much, they gel together very well. There's another example. This is from Afghanistan, from Herat. The previous one was from Pakistan. You can see this kufik on the right hand side, the script. It says Allah. One of my students whom I taught, she was commissioned by PlayStation to design a game in kufik script. So she was given 3 words. I think first was for exit, to exit the game. The word which was given in Arabic was hurriya, which means freedom. You exit. And then there was, I think the Hul was the first one to enter. So she designed this beautiful game based on these 3 words for children, I think 5 or 6 plus. And it's a beautiful game inspired by traditional square kufik script, which we see on this building, which is about 500 years old. And if you look at these patterns, and if you try to sort of deconstruct each one of this, you actually make a very interesting individual design or pattern, which can be actually set on any surface. in this 21st century when we are very modernized and we just cannot really understand the importance and the beauty of tradition, which we have to realize when we actually look at things which have to do with tradition. Tradition is something which pass on to you from your elders, from your mother, from your mother's mother, and then your father's father, so on and so forth. So it goes back into history.